So we're going to begin the Tree Advisory Committee meeting at 4:09. We have a new member of the committee,
Yes.
so we should all introduce ourselves.
So that's the first agenda item. but if you
Oh,
want to
okay,
talk about
I'll wait then. I can wait. Oh, there it is, okay. All right, so we'll call to order. Does anyone have any changes they want to recommend for the minutes from our last meeting, which was on June 16th?
I have a couple. Tiny. On the third page, part C, it just says Dolly Conservancy Management Plan twice.
Yes, that's obvious. Thank you.
And on the same page above, on where it says B, in the third line, it says Valeria Zisman instead of Valerie. That's all.
Thank you very much. I'll get that changed.
Thank you.
That's kind of embarrassing.
Changes? All right.
I'll second.
Aye.
Aye.
June 16th have been approved. All right, so a review of agenda for tonight. Are there any changes anyone wants to recommend? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for tonight.
I move approval of the minute. The agenda.
Was it seconded?
I think she's saying that all of us should have our mics on and just keep them on.
Yes, so it should be red.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kept turning mine off when I was talking. I know, I'm sorry. Yeah, it is confusing. I can't coordinate. Yes. Leave them on.
As long as you can remember to keep turning it on and off. Okay. Yeah, but if you can't, then just leave it on.
All right, mine will be on. Was it seconded, the motion? To approve the minutes for tonight? The agenda, yes.
I can second that.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So agenda approved. Welcome and introductions.
Yay.
All right, well, I'm Linda Brewer, and I am chair, and how I became really interested was meeting an arborist who started teaching me about trees and being in a neighborhood that requires people to keep trees and take care of trees. So
Who are we introducing ourselves to?
Anne.
we have a
So-
new member, so we're
Tell us about that, because I don't know about it.
we have a new member.
So the mayor appointed Anne Sawyer to the committee?
New member. You know, it's really hard. I was thinking about how difficult it was to work on the draft of an ordinance during the pandemic, but certainly this has been difficult as well, because we've had masks on most of the time, so.
Yeah.
All right. Terrell?
Why don't you go to someone else? I need a new pen.
All right.
We're just introducing ourselves to their newest member.
Brendy Hofer, and my interest is mostly in land restoration and preservation, but that also includes an interest in native trees.
I didn't quite catch your name, Brandy?
Brendy,
Brendy.
We're going this way.
that's it.
Yep.
I'm Sue Fieber. I've been on this
You need to turn the mic.
committee maybe a year, I'm not sure.
I think longer.
Longer? Okay. I am a self taught native gardener, and I had a tree-loving father, and that's my expertise.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Is microphone?
Oh, turn it back on, so it's red.
Okay, I'm gonna choose this one. So my name is Julia Ratafrata. I'm one of the ALDER. I signed to this committee, and to be honest, I am learning a lot with you guys about tree because, you know, I am a numerical person, so I don't know anything about tree, but it's, you know, but I am here to represent the council in this committee and ready to learn. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I am Anna Healy, and I am the staff contact. I'm the urban forester and naturalist for the city of Fitchburg, and I'm the staff contact for this committee.
Craig? Can you hear me? Uh-oh.
I'll go while he's getting sorted out.
Okay.
Carol Brock, and I've been on the committee for a long time. Before it was official committee, while we still had it as a sort of ad hoc committee for a long time. I'm just in general interested in trees, so forth, so welcome.
Thank you. My name is Ann Sawyer. I was just recently appointed. I moved to Fitchburg just before the pandemic, so haven't had a chance to get out and do all that much, but I appreciate the opportunity to help the community and do something with trees because I've always loved them. And I have been through the Master Gardener program, so I have a little bit of knowledge.
Excellent. Welcome to the committee. We're grateful to have you.
Thank you.
And Craig, are you able to introduce yourself?
All right. I think we'll continue with the meeting, and then when we can see Craig. Craig has, anyway, has been on the, anyway, is also working on the ordinance, so we'll meet him soon.
All right. And
Oh, well, we need him now.
we do. There he is. I'm trying to talk. Okay. So I wonder,
Oh,
I don't know what's going on.
So we need that fixed.
Are the
Yeah.
speakers working? I don't know.
Yeah, this is really,
Yeah.
really very important that he's able to.
Does Craig have his mic on?
Craig, are you, is your mic on?
Can't talk or something?
It's lighting up as if you,
Yeah, it's,
He is talking.
and they use me for the microphone. Yep, that's selected.
a whole new layer of issues and distractions, huh?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I can begin, but
Oh, we lost
that
him.
might be really
Maybe
more,
he's gonna try to,
I bet he's going to try to come back in.
more distracting than,
There he is. There we go. Hey, Craig.
good.
outdoors. He's using his phone now.
Okay, great. Hi.
But I can't hear him.
Are you still there?
How about, okay. Okay, should be good now. He's not talking right now, he's connecting to audio. Oh, okay, so he doesn't connect audio? Okay. Okay.
Well, I mean, the only other thing I can think is if we put him just on speaker, I could use my
Sure.
phone. Okay,
Yeah, I mean,
let's do that.
try wireless 3. Okay.
That's also on as well. Yeah. Okay.
Hi, this is Linda. Do you,
I think we're gonna call him.
yeah, we can't hear you. Okay, do you want to just use my microphone? Yeah.
Okay, should I just understand the phone?
Yeah, do you want me to give a little bit of an introduction, or do you want to do that? Valerie and all that?
Can you turn your mic towards you? Your
Yep.
microphone?
Yep, I'll put it on speaker. Okay. All right, so Craig is going to participate by speaker.
Linda, can you talk into your mic, please?
Yep, Craig is going to participate by speaker. So I'm going to give just a little bit of an introduction, and then he will go over the current draft. What?
No, Charlotte, can you turn your mic around? She asked me to have you turn your mic around, so you're talking into it.
Mine or whose?
Okay.
Turn it.
So
Yep.
just for benefit of people who haven't followed this process of ours, I mean, it's been at least a couple of years since we've been working on creating an ordinance for the city of Fitchburg to protect and preserve trees. And it's been, we've made progress, but it's been difficult. And so I just wanted to go over just this little tiny portion in our minutes from last time that just kind of introduces the what, the why, and the who of the tree protection ordinance. The what is the overreaching goal of the tree protection ordinance is to create a mechanism to retain trees in the city of Fitchburg landscape that contribute to our ecosystem and social services now and will continue to do so for generations. Secondly, to create a comprehensive plan policy to develop a tree protection ordinance that is comprehensive, includes tree diversity and a tree canopy goal, which the city has identified, the goal of 30% for the urban service area. 3, as part of the preliminary planning process and or rezone process, the desirable trees on a site will be considered for preservation. 4, a tree preservation plan will be implemented from before construction starts until it has been completed. And as we talked about this throughout our process, the goal is for that to be incorporated into all the decision-making that occurs in the city of Fitchburg, from developers developing new land to our policies in utilizing public lands that we currently own, that the city currently owns. The means for doing all this will be, the goal is to do this through the Planning Commission that looks at all of the, approves the preliminary plats, and that our urban forester and naturalist requires or provides input in writing to the Plan Committee, who is approving the new developments or redevelop land. So that's just a little bit of background. So the last time we met, we've been looking at drafts since last year. Craig has developed 2 or 3 or more drafts. We met with our city attorney earlier in the year. We've met with our city planner. We've met with the mayor. After our meeting in June, this past June, we scheduled another meeting with our city attorney. And at that time, we were told that what we could require was very limited on private land. So we have, Craig has developed a new draft that is a little bit less comprehensive than what we had planned on, but maybe a more reasonable start for us.
Should we explain the concern, what Valerie had brought up?
Sure.
So Valerie was just concerned that we would get into legal trouble if the city was, quote, taking, as in, yes. So we had to be very careful about that. So that was kind of why we had to really soften up language and change things quite a bit. So that was basically and I'm trying to find the date that we met with her.
We met with Valerie on July 20th.
That's what I thought.
We met with her. And then, yes, so that's when we met with her.
Yeah, and that was basically the conversation.
Yeah, and it was Craig and Anna and I. We were a little taken aback. We weren't prepared for that.
I wasn't, no.
So I think the plan is that we will continue through this process of working on an ordinance and also continue on the process of developing policy administrative guidelines to recommend that will protect to conserve our green spaces and protect and preserve our trees. So.
Yeah, and I don't know if Craig wants to speak, but I'm not sure if people had the opportunity to take a look.
So can you explain again, what were the things, just broadly, in our previous draft ordinance that were like unacceptable?
Basically requiring people to preserve trees.
Okay, because it covered,
Go ahead, Craig.
Okay, I wasn't sure if people could hear me right now. It's a great question. So what we had previously wanted the ordinance to do was to require a tree protection plan and to give some amount of enforcement ability to the forester. So the idea being, if a developer comes in, they have to put together a plan, not necessarily, a really great one, but something that says, all right, here's what we're going to actually save and here's what we're going to take out, that kind of idea. And then we wanted to have a kind of approval process with the forester where that forester position will get to look at all these plans and say, yes, this looks great, or no, it looks like this is really not doing much. And ultimately we knew that forester yes or no would be overrulable, that, we weren't going to be able to stop full things based on one tree. That was never the intent. But Valerie gave us kind of a real negative evaluation of our idea to have the forester in there, in that basically requiring people to keep trees on their property is, in a sense, taking away something of theirs, their property rights, and without adequate compensation, we really just can't do that without fear of the whole law being overturned. So our newer idea is basically kind of the same bones of having a tree preservation plan, but couching it heavily in terms of advising on the plan and, giving recommendations rather than having any actual kind of teeth to it.
Mm-hmm. So having said that, hoping people don't feel completely discouraged by it, because there are other cities in Wisconsin that do have tree preservation plans, and they are ordinances. So I talked to the forester naturalist in Mequon. They've had one on the books for 18 years. Their community is a little bit different than ours. They were actually, it's a little bit different, but they have a very comprehensive plan, and I would like to send a copy to the committee to look at, because I think we can go ahead with the ordinance plan we have now, but I think in the future we're going to want to look at something more comprehensive. And they make a division. They really specify in language the difference in using words like the words shall and must are mandatory, and may and should are permissive. So they make distinctions there. And I asked them if they had ever had a lawsuit, and he said no, they had never had a lawsuit. And I said, well, how does this work with developers? And he said, well, we work with a handful of developers, and they know what to expect from us. And this is the way we have been doing business in the community, and so that it works very well. They're very collaborative. And I talked about the parkland credits, and I just asked about that because I know we use that very heavily in our city. And he said they actually do not use parkland credits anymore at all. They don't use that language, and they don't use parkland credits. The language they use is conservation development. So they just have they have a different way of measuring how much green space and prairie or trees are required, depending on what the density of the population of the housing is. They also rely pretty heavily on the language, outlots language, which is very consistent with the newer research about, and maybe it's not new, but it certainly is popularized lately in the media, about, for instance, groves of trees being more successful than single trees. So I would not want the committee to feel discouraged, or citizens listening to this who have the same goals. And
I
go
think
ahead.
the compromises that we're discussing in the newer draft are ideally stepping stones. I think a lot of the more advanced ordinances did not happen overnight, and this one already isn't happening overnight, but hopefully the goal would be that we can have something on the books and then continue as a committee to strengthen Fitchburg's kind of strength in it as a tree community. So that's kind of my thought process, at least.
Yep.
Stepwise.
Yes, I agree. Are there any other comments?
I'm confused completely, but what happened to all the other definitions we had about specimen trees and witness trees and all of those things? Because they're not here anymore.
Do you want to take
Go
that?
ahead.
So I think basically, Valerie said we really can't use that language.
Because
I think it had to do with the take and the private property situation.
okay.
So that's part of the kind of the trimming it down, so to speak.
I mean, it seems like if we are making a recommendation, we can use that language,
Yeah.
that we can continue to use some of that language.
I think we can use it in policy documents.
Right, which I think, and when I looked at the Mequon ordinance, they have a manual of, well, they call it Policy Manual for Tree Protection and Preservation, and that is as it applies to development and administrative policies. So, and we have a recommended, what language did you use for that, Anna? We have a list of trees that, from the Forester Naturalist Office.
Yeah, we have a tree guide, so to speak. It's just a list of suggested trees to plant in the city of Fitchburg if you're interested in planting a tree. But we could really do a lot more in that regard in terms of developing, tree user guides and that sort of thing.
So that would be a thought, is to take some of the language that we had in our original proposal and include that in a manual. But Craig, did you want to say something?
We have a decent amount of flexibility in terms of what kind of recommendations we make.
Yes.
And ultimately what we would like to have is a more working relationship between the kind of zoning process and the forester, because there are, if the zoning people don't like a development, there are steps that can be taken. It's not necessarily explicitly because of trees, and it might be a little bit, more, wow, this just feels like a bad thing. Let's go back to the drawing board kind of discussion. But I do think there's some potential for improvement there outside of just the requirements.
Right. Right, and I actually wanted the same question about whether or not we still want to, even if it's a repetition, include some of the same language that we had in the original, in 9. Just, but what is here is a reference to what is in the city guide, so, correct?
Yeah, I think our goal should be to say, like, here's the guide that the forester puts together, and then everything references that, because then it also allows for changing time, when ash is no longer a good option because of emerald ash borer, we can pivot away, and the next thing that might be like that, there will be more flexibility in that than having it written in stone, basically, in the ordinances.
So the thought is that in Mequon and so forth, in the communities where they have these, they kind of built them by bits like this instead of just implementing the ordinance in full the way they have it?
No, I don't think so.
I think, I mean, we're looking for something that's going to be supported. And I guess what we heard from Valerie and the mayor, probably, I mean, is that wouldn't be what we were hoping we could have as a comprehensive plan similar to Mequon.
So
would be
basically,
supported.
the two of them were not supportive of it.
Well, I mean, I trust
We met with them, several of you had met with them several times, so this was a change.
It was a change.
Yeah, so Valerie is very careful. She's not trying to become a
No.
political agent. But what she did say, and just because Mequon hasn't been sued doesn't mean she's wrong, is that it will open us up to lawsuit to use kind of some of the more forceful things that we wanted to do. And regardless of whether that's a political statement or not, that kind of, I think that makes it kind of dead on arrival. Like, no matter how much we believe in it, if that phrasing comes into a council meeting, who's gonna vote yes on something that the city's own attorney said? I mean, I wouldn't want that on our books because of the lawsuits. I think it is a position that it's just not very tenable to be in a position where we're kind of staking our own claim that's different from hers.
Right.
And I don't at all believe she's being obstructionist or anything.
Right.
No negative about her. I think she's great and very smart. So it's just a tough situation.
So, I mean, we've already seen some changes, in the way business is done, and I think that's the goal, is to move the culture in the direction that takes us where we need to go, in preserving ecosystems and our environment, and making good decisions for new improved road developments, all of that, because what we've witnessed is that we are losing out on mature trees we planted 20 years ago, 15 years ago, or older, are getting wiped out with what the city is considering improvement. And I think we want trees at the table. So this gets us at the table. And I think if we want to move with the city, and I guess if this is where we are right now legally, this is where we're going to be. I mean, certainly the 30% canopy tree cover has been progress, and that's been adopted by all the departments. So I think we want to move ahead, and we will continue to move ahead in terms of working collaboratively with the Plan Commission and the Council and Public Works. But this gives us a start. So.
I have a question. I'm just looking at the part at the top So are we, is this saying that a tree preservation plan is something that a developer has to submit in the preliminary plat? Is that what this means?
Yep,
Okay.
and we're
okay.
already doing that now. Like
Okay.
last week, last time we met, we heard about new preliminary plat
Okay.
submissions, and there's one on our docket today, so it's happening. And I
Okay.
think all
I
along, that
understand
is
now.
something that Valerie told us the very first time we met, really encouraged us to work on getting these things in place even before an ordinance.
One thing that I think will be a really tremendous help that the newer draft keeps that is new is a requirement for them to at least do a survey. The survey of what exists here now will give an inroad to on our future foresters, whoever's in that role, to say, hey, what you got on your hands here is a really valuable chunk of trees. You might want to keep it for your own profit, which I think is true, but also is often not on their radar. So just having that survey, I think, will be a really big help. So.
Yep, I believe so too. And when I looked at this, the one thing that I did wonder about is whether the input from the arborist, if we wanted to say something in writing. It can be because I would like input defined as something the Plan Commission can see.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Okay, so maybe, Craig, would that be reasonable to at least include that?
Yeah, absolutely. I see, and I think
Okay.
that probably makes sense logistically too. As much as might be able to be at certain meetings, having just like here's what I think about that plan in writing makes perfect sense to me.
Mm-hmm. And Anna, I always ask that question, is that doable in terms of your time?
Sure, yeah,
Okay, yep,
I think it's important.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, so I want to make a comment or some recommendation. If you want to have some buy-in from the council and the rest of the committee, you need to start moving this to other committee and educate the other committee, especially the Parks Committee, starting with the Parks Plan, and then but maybe you can have a meeting with the Committee of the Whole, and then to have a presentation there so the rest of the council knows what is important to have a tree ordinance or a tree plan or whatever you want to call it. What have you been doing and what are the barriers that you're having right now? Because I think that, to be honest, the council doesn't know about this.
right, yep,
So and the other thing is you want to start planting the seed in each person and in all committee to say, we are working on this is what we want to do, this is the idea. And then, when you have you collect input from everyone, then we have a better idea if we can move with an ordinance or with or a policy. You know what I mean? So
right. So the next committee we should meet with probably is the Park Commission, is that correct?
Yeah.
Probably, but then I thought, we can send kind of some information and introduction via email, but we could send it not just to the Park Commission, but maybe to everyone, and then follow up in person as recommended.
the council, we have a monthly meeting called Committee of the Whole where we discuss, we don't vote, it's more like an educational meeting. And that one could be, it's run by the president of the council, so maybe you need to reach out to Randy and ask if you can be in the agenda for the next couple of months. I don't know if it's, and then that, you want to introduce the council, what is this you are doing here with this ordinance? So,
Okay,
you know what I mean? So.
yeah, that would be great, okay. All right,
And I think it'd be probably worth it to go to Plan Commission.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, yep. Absolutely. Can you hear us, Craig?
Mostly.
Okay, so Julia said,
I do apologize for the technology problem
Yeah.
on my end.
It's no problem.
okay,
It goes.
so I assume a few of us need to get together with our schedules and ask to get on the agenda for the Park Commission, the Plan Commission, and then the, what is that called, Julia? The committees, as a whole?
It's called Committee of the Whole.
Committee of the
Code,
Codes?
code.
Whole, Committee of the Whole, I'm sorry, yep. The Committee of the Whole. All right. Craig, anything else? Does that sound like a good plan?
Yeah, that sounds like a great plan to me.
Okay.
I just want to thank Craig for all his work on this. Thank you very much, Craig. You've really put a lot of time in, and we really, really appreciate it. So thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you. It's a really big deal.
Sorry you couldn't be there today. Actually, a side note, I apologize, but it is a class day for me, so the next few meetings will also be like this. So
Yeah.
Okay.
sorry, everybody.
No problem. We
Okay,
understand.
we should,
My audio is sorted out.
Yeah, no, we understand.
all right. All right, well, I'll just leave you on and,
Okay.
anyway,
Sounds great.
okay.
All right.
All right, is there anything, just to the rest of the committee, that we've talked about that you want to see more information about, that I can send you outside of the meeting? Would you like a copy of the Mequon one? I mean, even if, just for future reference? No?
Nothing for me.
Okay. All right,
Thanks for your work on that, Linda.
yeah, the goal is to still, of course, get it to council as soon as possible, and this year, this council year, so. All right, Fitchburg Greenway presentation, Mr. Arnold.
Good afternoon, everyone. If you could put my presentation up on the big board, I appreciate that. By way of introduction, I'm Steve Arnold. I live at 2530 Targhee Street. That's the Burnwood subdivision. And I'm appearing today before you on behalf of Bike Fitchburg. I'm the treasurer of Bike Fitchburg, and Bike Fitchburg is the local bicycle advocacy group for the city. There was some nervousness we sensed from this committee about the ordinance that came through in August, the resolution to have a demonstration intersection for the Fitchburg Greenway system. That ship has sailed. The council passed the resolution, but I wanted to appear before you to orient you to the overall proposal. Are we going to get that, or you're still working on it?
Yeah, I'm still working on it.
Okay. I wanted to orient you to the overall system. The several pages in your packet were about the demonstration ordinance, which involves signage around the intersections of Post Road and Traceway Drive with what we call the Fish Hatchery Greenway, which is a side path that runs from the Beltline Frontage Road all the way south to Whalen Road, 4.2 miles. The idea is that when that is done, the public and elected officials will be able to see what the signage will look like as we propose to establish the system citywide.
Oh, okay. Since there's nobody else on Zoom, there's no way to share it. Craig would have to.
Well, can we just put it up on the screen and take Zoom down?
Okay. You can plug your laptop in. Right?
My laptop's plugged in.
It's plugged in.
I hope this is not counting toward my time. While I'm waiting for that, I did take some pictures today because I know that you are all very interested in the interaction between greenways and trees. So we'll look at that.
Well, and one thing, I don't know, Steve, is does this go in front of what's going to be the hub?
The Hub Community Center is to be developed on the middle of Traceway Drive. And so that's about 1,000 feet from Fish Hatchery Road.
Yep. So, and that's not part of this?
Well, we are, one of the different initiatives of Bike Fitchburg was to try to extend a multi-use path along the front of the hub.
Yep.
And the Plesco apartment building that has been approved.
Yep.
And then we'd still have a bottleneck to fix at the south entrance to the Fitchburg Ridge Shopping Center. But it seems very important to us that bicyclists and pedestrians would be able to get to the hub from the Fish Hatchery Road corridor.
But I think one thing, and maybe we can talk about this today, is now that terrace is too small for trees because of that infrastructure. So
there is plenty of room on that lot. They chose to allocate it in a way that I think is, the Bike Fitchburg's position is that that was an unwise allocation. There could be terraces and wide enough for trees and a 10-foot path. He's got a lawn in between the sidewalk and the building. And the building could be moved back another 2 feet.
I asked for that, but then it interferes with the fire lane.
It's a site plan.
Yeah.
The site plan could have been engineered to do all this, and instead, I don't know about you getting your space for trees, but we're getting an 8-foot sidewalk instead of a 10-foot asphalt path.
Excuse me, that's our space for trees.
Yeah, and so
What?
That's our space, is for the whole
Yeah.
community, for trees.
and it
Right.
does preclude, I mean, it just precludes tree plant. There's
I
not enough
totally
space.
agree that there should be trees there.
Yeah.
And he insisted that it had to be the way they planned it, so I would love to give you this presentation.
So your computer has to be plugged into the HDMI port?
It is.
He said it is. And it's not on Zoom, right?
I am not on Zoom.
He's not on Zoom.
Before Zoom, this was easy. You just plugged it in and it popped up there.
Yeah, we used to use the back, the back thing we used to use for. But I think, I mean, that is one concern that I think we see is that, if we do put in bicycle infrastructure, often it's at the expense of the space to plant trees, and I really don't know what to say about that.
Well, we need trees over the bike infrastructure, so we are completely in agreement with you that there need to be trees.
But there's no space.
Yeah. Do you want to bring your computer over?
When you're trying to fit things into a space where it won't go, you have to look at a bigger system. So for one thing, for example, we generally have 66-foot right-of-way. But our roads are too wide. That encourages unsafe driving. But curb and gutter lasts for 50 years, and so Public Works is generally not happy about demolishing it to make more room in the terrace and so on. When you are asking for permission to develop like Plesco is, you can ask for more right-of-way as a public dedication. But I think that, this is, I would love to discuss all of this, but I'm not going to be able to do that
Sure.
as well. So.
I just bring it up because it is an issue at the hub, like, people want trees on that terrace, but then we have this bike path, so it's like, well, there's no space.
Well, there's no bike path. Yes?
Could you bring your computer over?
Could I do what?
Could you bring your computer over here by chance so we could plug it into this cord?
Linda, can we ask for a recess for 5 minutes until they fix that? So we are not on the air.
Certainly. Do we need to ask for, I know. All right, well, let's take a 5-minute recess and reconvene at 5 o'clock.
that you've seen in your packet is not the resolution I'm talking about. It's a more comprehensive resolution that establishes a greenway system. It authorizes the park department to do master planning on it, and it designates the fish hatchery greenway as an initial part of the system. That draft exists but has not yet been introduced. It would come to this committee for your comments. Let's go to the next slide. So signage is the most important missing piece. These are the so-called identification signs that are down at the Velo Underground. And you would see signs that say Traceway Drive and Fish Hatchery Greenway on the corner when the demonstration signage is put up. Other kinds of signs are welcome and confirmation signs. They are illustrated in your packet. And you can have maps. So we would have maps like the ones that currently exist at the Velo Underground and the Dolly Bike Hub could be put in, for example, at McKee Farms Park and at the Capital City Fish Hatchery Bridge on the stone pedestal there that's dying for something to be on it. And that those signs and revisions of the two existing bike map signs would show the Fish Hatchery Greenway. Next slide. Over time, you need to work on the network and improve it, filling gaps, mitigating bottlenecks, for example, where there were existing traffic signals that did not allow the path to be a full safe width. And I won't go through all of those. Next slide. So here's an example. This was taken the day after Sherry Maples crashed into a minivan, a crash that she died from her injuries about 9 months later. And after the Capital City Trail was revised, you can see what happened in the next slide. We now have crossing stripes, detectable warnings, a center line, better signage, and this made that intersection safer. It's going to be even safer when it's rebuilt, I believe next year, but it could be the following year. The roads will be realigned and there will be a traffic signal for bikers and motor vehicles at this point. Next slide. So what we've done today is we've gotten a $1,000 grant from AARP Wisconsin to do the demonstration signage, and that the council has passed the resolution to authorize the acceptance of the gift and the installation of the signage. And this is an example of a confirmation assembly with the Fitchburg branding plaque on the top, the Greenway identification sign, and then the distance signs to important destinations. There was a comment from one of the alders about, well, we know where everything is, and we don't need these signs. And really, a wayfinding system is designed for people who are visiting the area, who are exploring a new neighborhood. It is not for the people that live here. All of you know where City Hall is. You do not need a sign to tell you. But I will relate a story. My wife and a friend were doing door-to-door canvassing in the Leopold neighborhood before a fall election, trying to get people to encourage them to vote early. And they said, you can vote at the clerk's office anytime they're open. And the person said, the resident said, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why would I go down to Martin Luther King Boulevard to vote if I live in Fitchburg? And the answer, of course, is that we have our own city hall, and the clerk's office is here. But so many of these people are heavy users of transit, and they have never been south of McKee Road. And to have a sign that says City Hall, Library, and Senior Center 2.1 miles down this lovely, safe path that I can walk or ride my bicycle is a great, empowering thing. And so that's who it's designed for, people exploring new neighborhoods, people who are visiting the area. Next slide. So as I mentioned, subdividers put bike paths in new neighborhoods, and the city builds new bike paths when they reconstruct roads. But that means that these benefits are inequitably distributed. So next slide. These are Fitchburg's 3 healthy neighborhood initiative areas. On the left and on the right is the Southdale neighborhood, which will become ours on October 31st. These demographically are characterized by low income, single parent households, no personal vehicles. And you can see that the Fitchburg Greenway system, which here is got a little more highlight that you can see up better on the monitors, doesn't go into those neighborhoods. There are a few bike lanes, and the Cannonball Trail serves the south side of the Belmar neighborhood. But we need to, over time, develop this system to reach our residents who are too busy trying to feed their families and stay in their homes to come down to City Hall and advocate for better bike facilities or better park facilities. So on to the next slide. Maintenance consists of, so when you propose anything to the council, they say, what's this going to cost me? And you can give them a number, and they say, but what is it going to cost me in the long run? The important thing about the Greenway system is we are already maintaining this, and we already have it. It's just the signs that we're asking for, plus social media, the Fitchburg Star, fact stories about the system to encourage people to use it, and how many different places. It's especially synergistic with the fact that we're going to be getting the B-Cycle bike share system this year into the city. So what we have to do is plow it. After it snows, we trim the brush that's overgrowing it, and we mow along the sides. We need to periodically seal the cracks in the asphalt or even replace it completely, like we've recently done at McKee Farms Park. We need crossing and centerline paint and litter removal, but these are things that we're already doing. Next slide. This is the current snowplow map, or the map from a year ago. There's a dedicated crew of different people and different equipment that goes out and plows all these paths at the same time that different people with different equipment are plowing our roads after every snow. But we're not getting the advantage from it because people know that there's a bike path behind their house, but they don't know all the places they can get on it. And they don't think of it as part of a transportation system. Next slide. So, just to conclude, Fitchburg's multi-use paths form a dense network that our city should be promoting as an asset that we already have. The cost of signage and marketing is minuscule compared to the millions of dollars that have been invested to build all these paths by either the city or private developers. The process starts with the Park Commission approving the concept and directing park staff to work on a resolution. And a reasonable goal for next year would be to pass the resolution, start the master planning process, and get the signage up on the Fish Hatchery Greenway. I just wanted to show you a few more things that are particularly of interest, I think, to this committee. So these are just some photos I took an hour ago. This is what some of the private property owners have been doing to improve the Greenway, the Fish Hatchery Greenway, by their property. So this is my next door neighbor's backyard. Next. This is my own backyard and my other side neighbor, and these are the trees that I planted with Anna's assistance last year. They're swamp white oak, and that land from the break-in slope up to my neighbor's berm, the flat part, belongs to Dane County. And in a second, I'm going to show you what it would look like if I hadn't mowed it and planted the trees. Go ahead. So this is what it looked like. This is the next two lots. This is all invasive honeysuckle and other crap that is not doing anybody any good and doesn't look good and encroaches on the path and collects litter. Next slide. This rock garden was put in last year or the year before by my neighbor 4 lots down. So just another private improvement along this path. One more, or maybe that's just the other side of that mess. A little bit more context there. And these shots are of my neighbor at the corner of Nobel Drive. He lives on Targhee Street, but it's Nobel Drive and Fish Hatchery. Another one. Just showing the kind of changes that he's put in native plants. He's growing milkweed for monarchs. So this is the kind of, and of course the trees around here are beautiful. The ones behind my house were preserved when they did the Fish Hatchery Road rebuild about 10 years ago now by having an arborist come out and trim the roots to protect the trees. And then they put in huge caissons that have 18 electric distribution lines, plus there's gas through there. All that was done to preserve those trees, and that was successful. So it's a beautiful place to bike or walk, and the trees are a critical part of it, and Bike Fitchburg certainly supports trees. I think I've shot my wad and more than my time, so any questions? Again, my goal here is for you to understand what we're proposing so that you can do your advocacy, which we at Bike Fitchburg, and I'm sure the Park Commission, all agree with.
So what is it that you're asking of us specifically?
To not say, whoa, we want to talk about this. We want you to be aware of what we're doing.
And thank you.
How it affects trees in Fitchburg, because there are conflicts and trade-offs to be made. Some of the bike paths, future greenways like the Lacey Greenway, Lacey from Seminole to Fitchrona Road, there are trade-offs. We want to preserve the century trees too. There are ways to do that by dodging the path around on an easement onto private property. There's other solutions, but those trees are important for people who use the trails for providing shade and oxygen and all the things you guys know about.
Mm-hmm.
So
and I guess, that was what I had wondered. I'm sorry, let's let you finish.
Go.
That was one of my initial questions that I emailed you today, is that when you're doing your planning for projects and proposals, are you also planning and considering tree preservation and conservancy?
Yep.
And what I did was, after I got your email about coming, I actually Googled Greenway, and I didn't get what you got as a first hit. What I got is an area that was green. And then I looked up area, and I don't know, are you using a model that another city is using
So
as you're doing
famous
this planning?
examples of greenways are the Minneapolis Crosstown Greenway, which you may have seen. It's an old railroad corridor. New York Manhattan's High Line, which is another railroad corridor that's elevated, but it is a greenway. It's full of vegetation. Atlanta's Beltline. This is an old railroad circuit around Atlanta that all the radial lines feed into, and that some of them go downtown then. And it's the rails are gone, and it's being redeveloped as a civic space. That's the thing we're talking about. Fitchburg has 3 greenways currently that we have named but do not have signs. The Schumann Greenway goes from the end of Schumann Drive through into McKee Farms Park and has a bike path and drainage. The Tower Hill Greenway goes from Fish Hatchery Road along Sue's house into the park, and then they call it the, I'm forgetting the name of the street. The one comes from the west and meets it. And then the Yarmouth Greenway runs through the two ponds, past Walgreens, and Yarmouth Greenway Drive is named after it. So there's, the Capital City Trail is in the Yarmouth Greenway, in the north end of it. There's a path along the south end of it through McKee Farms Park up to Brendan Avenue. So these are names that are already being used, but we do not have it mapped out as a transportation system.
Can I ask a question? So what you're saying is the greenway that's going to go from Seminole Highway to, I think Fitzroy Road, or maybe not quite that far. So you're saying that part of the plan now is to try and save those trees? Because I was told sometimes you have to lose some trees. And
That's true. And for example, where you have beautiful, old, huge trees on each side of the road very close, you're going to lose them on one side. So you pick the side. But to be clear, it's not the path that's causing that loss. It's the fact that there's going to be a road through there. The path can go dodge around the trees, typically on the private property side. I am not involved in engineering that. I know ways to preserve it, but you know, I'm not making a tree-by-tree decision through there. So yes, you will, and there are, like the dense undergrowth that I showed behind my neighbors' homes, there are trees that should be removed. There are weedy trees, there's invasive undergrowth and that kind of thing, like we're removing at McGaw Park.
Yeah.
So people love kind of the park setting. They don't like, because of our evolution, we don't like to be in a dense forest that's closed in, and we don't like to be on the open plain. We like that edge of forest environment, and the greenways are attempting to do that. We'd call it savanna if it was a natural area.
All right, anybody else have any questions or suggestions? I thank you for keeping us informed. I would really encourage you to keep the green and greenway.
Oh, yeah.
And
Well, I showed
guess
you those
that's
pictures
my
because I
biggest
wanted.
well, I know, that's a very different neighborhood than the area in Fish Hatchery you're talking about.
Right.
And maybe those people don't have, I mean, well, anyway, the resources to, you know, voluntarily plant trees, or if they're rental, they don't either, so.
Sure.
So, anyway.
Our proposal would be to, when the old end-of-life garden apartments, many of which have already been removed in that Fairways subdivision, as they are removed and that area is redeveloped by Plesco or a future owner, we would want that path put in along with the necessary street trees. And that would be our solution, is paths plus trees.
Okay, and I guess that's the other thing is that increased paved areas might not be what we want in the future either. I was looking at the urban, they call it urban greenway because it's a little deceptive when you say greenway and you just see streets and grass and a little grass and mostly streets. That doesn't look like a green, I mean, it might be a little deceiving. But I was looking at how they describe what their project is, and they call it, they do call it urban greenway. They said it's a result of longstanding practice of conserving natural landscapes, preserving permanent open spaces, and installing advanced stormwater management techniques. And that's what they talk as an initiative. And I'm not saying that those things can't all go together. I would just really love to see more of conservancy in what you're doing as well. I mean, that's my personal, just one person opinion is all.
Sure. The way I think of these trails, whether they're running through the woods like the Capital City Trail or running along a road, is that they're providing access. healthy, active transportation access to the pharmacy, the park,
Understand.
and the trees along the way.
And we have a lot of streets too, but thank you very much. All right. Budget.
All right. So just to make everyone aware, on the website, you can find the schedule for adoption of the 2023 budget. And it looks like the proposed budget will be posted to the city's website on Friday, September 23rd. So you can look out for that. And I don't really have a whole lot more on budget. I don't know if Julia wants to talk a little bit about budget. I really don't have much influence on the process.
Yeah, so we haven't seen the budget yet, but I am planning to bring an amendment to increase your hours,
Yay.
and I would like your support.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that one is part of one of the amendments for this committee, budget, okay?
Thank you, Steve. Nice to see you.
So I think the city, we need to have a full-time arborist,
Yes.
so, okay.
Yep. Oh, thank you so much. Very good news.
All right. Anything else on budget? I guess that brings us to our last agenda item, which was a lot of pages, as some of you have pointed out.
I couldn't understand why it wouldn't load.
Oh, really?
275 pages?
Yeah.
It is big.
I think when we have those documents, we should have them separate from the ones that are like really the core of our work, so that we know, we don't have to go through the whole thing or whatever. It's just kind of.
Sure. I know, it's already approved. It did get referred to us, and I think if I, and I don't, yeah.
I refer it to this commission
Oh.
because I think we need to, all of this stuff planning should come to the street committee too.
Yeah,
But the problem is because we don't have monthly meetings or bi-monthly
Right.
meetings, sometimes I need to be sure if when I refer something to the street committee, it make it. Because otherwise, there are some time sensitivity for some of the proposal or, resolution that we cannot wait 2 months. So I want to try to do my best, but sometimes because of our schedule with our meetings, it's not going to fit.
yeah, no, that's true.
Yep.
I think part of it, though, that's a good point, and it's a good thing that you referred to this committee, is there are Century Oaks on that property, and they're not on the map. So they're not on the site plan.
Oh,
So if you're just looking at the paperwork, you don't know that they're there.
right.
So, and there's probably a dozen at least, maybe 15, maybe 20, I'm not sure, because it's private property, I can't crawl around in there. But if you look from Sain and you look from the other road from Lacey, you can see them. They're there, they're around the buildings. So, and that's something that, you're not going to know just by looking at that packet, because they're not included. So, yeah, but you're right, we don't need to, there's nothing really to talk about, because it's already been approved.
So in the future,
So is it something that we can still talk to the landowners about? Or is that a location that they've planned to bulldoze?
Well, that's what the packet was in the packet. So the packet was the preliminary plat approval process, so that went from Plan Commission to council, and then Julio was nice enough to refer it back to this group. So it's something that we could put a note to say, like, something like we did in the past. The last meeting, we had several, we said something about, maintaining canopy as appropriate to meet the 30% canopy goal, or whatever it was. You can make that comment, because Plan Commissioners may or may not be even aware, or council people may or may not even be aware those trees are present, because they're not required to put them on the site plan.
And also, we approved the expansion of tax incremental district. We add another lot parcel that is I don't know what they're gonna do there, but it's covered by tree.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
And that one is something that eventually is gonna come here when we develop, because what we did, we added that parcel to the tax incremental district that we created for this project that is in this resolution. And eventually Avanti, they are the owners of the parcel. They are gonna develop something in the future, maybe in 1 or 2 years. And for sure, it has to come to us because they need to remove a lot of tree.
Yeah,
So we need to get
That's
this done
true, yes.
quickly. Yeah. Yes. If there is a way to get that
I mean, it's.
recommendation, make them aware and advise, what,
So-
give some recommendation.
Right, yeah, and that's kind of, since it's already been approved, that's kind of, that opportunity's kind of gone.
Okay,
Bye.
all right.
So, yeah.
But that's what you're wondering, Terrell, if the land hasn't been disrupted yet, is it still too late to at least inform them that from the street side, you can see that there are some old oaks there that would be very valuable to the community if it was possible for them to preserve it?
I don't have a mechanism to do that.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Maybe you can send, this committee can send an email to the developer or to the plan commission when they come back to, because we just approved the project, but then each project individually has to come back to plan commission, to council. So that maybe could be the opportunity when they start developing the land and we see that there start some tree there, maybe we can send an email to plan commission, the council, say, by the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that would be proper, right? That would be,
Yeah, you can send email to the council and to members of the plan commission, and
okay,
this is your right, you know what I mean?
okay.
And,
All right.
and one thing I'll just comment that, like, you know, this, the tree preservation ordinance we talked about earlier, just having that, the trees on the site map, I think would make a difference. So, so it, you know,
Do we even have this in here? I mean, would this require that they put it on the plan?
that's what it says, yeah.
Okay.
On the site map, yeah, that the trees would be included on the site map. Because if you look at that site
Is there a
map,
way, if there's a time frame issue in the future, to where we could have like scheduled monthly meetings that are like short, to where we as a committee would show up for these small types of decisions that are development decisions versus having the full agenda that they're just set in case there are development things like Julie was saying about, you know, having a monthly cycle so that we're in the process and kind of have it. And then if we have nothing, we just cancel the meeting.
Well, yeah, we can have an emergency meeting, okay? But then, because you get paid every time that we meet, so there is a budgetary constraint on how many meetings that are approved for us, for this committee to meet, because there is a budget, okay? The only thing that you can say is we can have a emergency meeting that the chair can call because there is something that we need to discuss, it's time sensitive, but maybe you guys need to waive your fee, what is your
per diem,
stipend, per diem.
per diem.
That one could be an option, okay?
I don't think currently, I think by the expressions that we're getting
No.
reimbursement anyway.
Well, but I am telling you because, you know, some other people, I don't know, I don't know if you have,
But,
you get paid or not, but you know what I mean?
but.
I think the
but-
most would be yours.
Yeah, but it's
probably,
gonna be
your
Right,
time.
Anna,
but-
yeah.
Right, but, and that would be pretty clunky. Like, do we have a meeting, do we not? Do we have a meeting, do we not? Like, and people would know to refer us to it. I mean, that would be super clunky. I think we need to either increase the number of meetings we have or kind of do things the way we're doing them now. I mean, there isn't really a slick way to do what you're suggesting. And these plats are coming through, as you know, I mean, nonstop. There's never going to be a month that there isn't plats coming through, as far as I can tell. I mean, the plats are coming through, you know, and when I say nonstop, I'm not kidding.
Okay, my other recommendation is, if you want more, we have increased the frequency of our meetings, it had to be a budget amendment. So you need to let me know so I can put an amendment to the budget. So there is a process.
Right, right,
Or next year.
Right.
Next year.
yeah.
Is there a way maybe that it would work out budgetarily if we had them, but they were all shorter in terms of time duration, and these other topics we would just,
The time is
Ready
getting
as
the
we
meeting
need to.
together, Trell. Like, to get, for open meetings law, we have to put everything on OnBase. It has to be there 2 weeks in advance. We have to publicly notice it, and that's a lot of work from Fact TV, from myself, from the clerks. That's the work. It's not, this is time, right? But that's the work, and it involves a lot more than just me. It's, the clerks do a lot of work, and Fact TV does a lot of work to make that all happen.
okay, okay. So it would definitely need a budget amendment, so. I mean, that would,
Well, what would be the minimum number of meetings that would satisfy that need? I mean,
I think it would be the same as Park Commission.
okay, which is monthly, is that correct?
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, 11, don't they?
Yeah. How many times do we meet in this committee? I don't know.
6.
6? Okay.
Well, it's typically every 2 months during
Oh, okay.
pretty much the academic year.
So you want to go to
8, maybe?
8, 11, 10?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Well, whatever would satisfy that need.
Okay.
and that would make sense if we're going to do the tree preservation ordinance to weigh in more frequently on things.
Right, might be necessary. Okay. Yep. Okay.
All right.
Question? Are we talking about going to 12 meetings a year?
Well, I mean, it's kind of, it's, I think, sort of a discussion point.
I mean, possibly, let's see, we started out with 4. Now we have 6. Think there could be a compromise? I mean, we can't get
well,
every.
we used to have like 8 when we were in ad hoc, so things kind of changed and decreased or whatever, so.
So, but it's about money.
Yeah, it is.
Always about money.
Yeah.
So the question is, we can increase the number of meetings, but then, we need to follow that. We assume that every person in the committee get a per diem. And I don't know how much is $25 meeting. I
Something
don't know.
like that.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't know either.
So that one had to be allocated in the budget. And then I need to multiply that for the number of members, because maybe you guys say, we don't want, we don't want that, we waive it. But who knows the next new member? Or some other member can say, what. So this is why we need to assume that everyone get the per diem.
Okay.
So this is how I need to go. So now we have a budget for 6 meetings. So I need to know how much is going to be the bump to 10. Maybe we can compromise to 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there's any other way to address the specific need, because this is really important, this is what we're all working for. So it is really important.
No.
But there is no other way to give feedback on the pre-plat or the planning without us meeting as a whole committee. I assume a subcommittee can't do that from here, could that?
I don't think so. I mean, unless you went to Plan Commission and just gave your input, which is possible.
I don't think, I don't think that would be good either. No, I wouldn't, I just think it has to be part of a formal process, so. Okay.
You tell me and I do it.
So what do the rest of you think what would be workable for the rest of you?
I think we need to base it on the need, and then
I
the
know.
committee members need to decide if they can do it or not, or switch out and get
Yeah.
new members.
Right.
I
and
mean,
we're-
we're in the business of doing the business of.
Yes.
And if we're going to do the ordinance and
Right.
do the business, then
And
we
I-
need to do it.
Yeah.
And then with technology, we can do Zoom, we can do phone things like you did with Craig. People
Right.
can be on vacation
Right.
somewhere and check in for
And I've-
half an hour and do business and.
And that's probably what I would need to do at least a couple times a year, so, at least, so, but,
Well, and I was thinking of what was realistic. If you go in and ask for 12 meetings going from 6, are you going to get that? And that's why I went, well, you know, could you get 8?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just, you know,
Yeah,
it's like getting Anna's hours increased.
right,
You know, it's
Day
like.
by day.
It's, you know,
oh, it's time for full.
yeah,
it's time
Oh,
for
you
that.
all did so much work last year to get, yeah.
yeah.
It's time for that, but it's like, what are we, it's like, what we.
Well, I feel like this train is taking off.
I
You know,
agree.
like, it
I agree.
really is, and I think it's, there's a momentum going. And I think it feels like, to me, like a little excitement, just not by us, but the Park Commission, and some council members, about this being a very, very exciting initiatives for improving our city. And so if there's a need and we're getting what we asked for, then we want to fill that need. We want to create the time to fill the need. That's the whole purpose we're doing it, so.
Yeah, I think that's well said, Linda.
Yeah, so. Okay, we have a plan.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I gave you guys a written report. I don't know if you want to hear more. We actually got a lot done this summer. Jenna was awesome. She was really great. And, you know, feel free to check out the website. We changed it quite a bit. She's a very talented graphic person. So, and then we had another intern take a bunch of pictures. So we didn't get as far as we wanted to, but we got a lot farther than we have in years and years.
Wow.
So, you know, if you want to take a look and if you have suggestions or whatever, let us know. It's a lot more functional, I feel like, and a lot more visually appealing and less clunky, potentially. There's a lot more that we could and should do with it, but I think it's a good start. And also, you know, we've been really trying to plant trees in parks to get to that 30% canopy goal, and we did really try to focus on healthy neighborhoods. And we try to, because of the acquisition of Town of Madison coming up here in a month-ish, month and a half, whatever it is, we try to put a lot of trees at Rimrock Park. We used up the rest of the park improvement dollars that were available and planted trees in there just to try and illustrate, like, you know what, we're really serious about planting trees in the city of Fitchburg, and when Town of Madison comes on, we're gonna, you know, we'll be serious about planting trees there too. So we were just trying to illustrate that message, and those trees went in July. And I think they look really good. So if you ever are driving by and see them, that was one of the things that Jenna worked on as well. So that was really great. So it was really awesome to have someone in that job for the summer.
Can I make an announcement?
Of course.
So the friends of the dog park, they're gonna plant some tree in the dog park, and they're looking for volunteer. It's
Okay.
this Saturday from 9 to 11.
Okay.
If you are here, you want to help to, you know, to plant some new tree in the dog park, you're welcome.
Okay.
Jake Johnson is coordinating all this activity. I'm gonna try to be there, but.
Fantastic.
And the holes are pre-dug, just so you know.
Ah.
So it does not involve, because it does not involve, I think.
You don't have to bring a shovel?
No, the holes are pre-dug. We did that today. So you don't have to worry about that piece of it, because that's the hard part, right? That's done.
Yeah, that
And the mulch is already there, so it's right. So don't be shy. Yes. Anyway, so great. Thank you for
That's
bringing that up, Julia.
fantastic. Mhm.
And anyway, another announcement, I will be out with knee surgery for a couple weeks at least, starting next week. So
Wow.
if you want to get a hold of me, tomorrow is the day.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to get these minutes done tomorrow and get them online. You know, feel free to look at them, and, you know, if you have comments, that's fine, but I won't have time to send them to you for comments and then put them online. I've got to get them on right away. We're supposed to get them on, I think, 3 or 4 days after the
Okay.
meeting. So I'm just going to get them on tomorrow, and then that doesn't mean I can't edit them later, but I'm just going to get it done tomorrow so it's there and we're within our requirement for open meetings.
So I assume you're going to be healing for a while?
Yeah, probably 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how it
Okay.
goes. So we'll see.
All right, thanks. Oh, great, we'll be thinking about you.
Oh, thanks.
I'm sure you'll heal fast.
I hope so. I hope so. It's been a long time in coming.
Yeah.
So when is the next meeting?
So it is in October. It's October,
13th.
thank you. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, next month.
Next month.
Yeah. All right. Anything else? Any other announcements? Phew. All right. Have a motion to adjourn?
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Meeting adjourned at,
Who was the second? Oh, thank you.
well,
And the motion was you, Linda, right?
yep,
Okay.
I made the motion.
All right, perfect.